by the end of this webinar, if you're a coach, therapist, facilitator, and you help other people, it's going to help you help them big time. And if you're not any of those and you're into personal development, this is going to help you know what course is right for you or what understanding is going to really, really help you. For instance, hands up, okay, who has done a course and it may have changed their life and you recommended it to someone else and it didn't do anything for them, or vice versa. Have you ever experienced that? Yeah. So what can help one person doesn't help another person and vice versa. It can be a little bit mystical. It's like, well, I did this course and it really helped me, but then my brother-in-law did it and he said it's the biggest waste of space ever. This is demystifying that. And by the end of this webinar, you're going to know what will help you and what will help your clients. So as a metaphor, when there's a baby, obviously it's on its back and then it progresses to crawling, then it progresses to toddling, then it progresses to walking. And then at some stage it's running. There's this like progression. It can't go from being on its back to running. There is this step by step. So with our human potential, evolution, expansion, there's steps. There's regions of consciousness. There's certain things that most people go through, and there's things that will really help people from one region and not help people from another region. I'm going to explain what I mean by that. As a metaphor, a guy's water doesn't work. There's no water coming out of the tap. So he phones the local plumber, and loads of plumbers come round and they can't work it out, and he keeps paying loads of call out fees and no one works it out. And he phones this other plumber who's meant to be really good. So this other plumber comes around, he looks at all these pipes because he's got a big house, lots of pipes going all over the place, like this big maze. And he kind of looks around for 2 hours. And then eventually he gets one spanner out, or you call it a wrench, and he whacks the pipe in this particular corner really hard. Then all of a sudden, all the water starts working. He goes up to the client, says, okay, that'll be $5,000. Like, what? All you did was bang a pipe. He said, well, my call out fee is $10. My time is $200, but knowing where to bash the pipe is $5,000. So as a coach facilitator, if you know where to bang the pipe, it can really help your clients. So this is going to teach you to know where to bang the pipe. And this is new to me. I did a webinar slightly around this on regions of consciousness a few months ago, but this is kind of like the 3.0 updated version and a bit more intentional. So what do I mean by regions of consciousness? It's fundamentally where people are at. Are they on their back? Are they crawling? Are they toddling? Are they running? Like, we're all in different regions. And I have to say, this isn't a right or a wrong. It's just inevitable and it's natural. We all go through certain regions. Everyone is at a different region and it needs to be like that. Right. So the universal mind, God, can experience itself through us with all the synchronicity, with all the uniqueness. It's all okay.
With the orchestra.
Yeah. Actually, I want to set this up. I'm going to go over what the regions are first. Then when I've explained the regions, you know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm then going to apply it to how do you help people from certain regions. So bear with me. So most of the world I call just kind of like mainstream. And as a guess, I'll say 70 to 80% of the world is what I would call mainstream. And in the mainstream region, where kind of like life happens to me. So there's this necessary and inevitable kind of amnesia that life's happening to them, the work's happening to them. There's not much awareness around that they have this power within them. They're kind of a little bit on automations of life in a sense. I've been there.
Oh, I was there for years.
Yeah.
I was there for years and years and years and
yeah.
years and years and years. Yeah.
And at this region, you're not really sure what your beliefs are because you're so conditioned. Like, you don't really know, well, do I want kids because that's what women do? Do I want to be successful because men should be successful? You're not quite sure what your beliefs are, but you haven't got the awareness to not even be sure of your belief. It's just like this automation. So I hope that kind of makes sense.
It's like paint by numbers. living life, paint by numbers. Each little box has a certain color that we need to paint versus versus, now where it's a blank canvas, a blank canvas of infinite potential for you to paint on. Yes, definitely.
Now, region 1 people, they're not into self-development or self-expression or expansion.
Well, can I say, because
Yeah.
it's not that I wasn't into it. I didn't know. I had no idea. I was clueless. I had no idea that this whole other world existed. The world that involved myself and my wholeness and my power.
Yeah.
Clueless.
Now, obviously, there's I've got 4 regions, but obviously it's kind of like there's region 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 until you get to 2. So it's kind of on this spectrum. Okay. So for example, region 1, in this region, people are kind of a little bit oblivious. You go up a bit and then they're kind of a bit more clued up. And then you get people in region 1 who are open and interested in spirituality and stuff, but they're not going to buy a book on it. They're not actually going to go on a course. Now, none of you guys are in region 1 because you're on this course. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's reveal more. Region 2, I call this the personal power. And what it is, you go from life happens to me to I can change my life. Okay. You start realizing I can change my job. I can get over my past. And it's kind of categorized by people personally starting to feel empowered and doing something about things. So at this region, it's kind of on the region of like law of attraction. I'm going to create what I want in the world. It's like motivational speaking. So it's very empowering. It's a huge evolution from life happens to me to I can recreate my life. Okay, so it's huge. But at the same time, the pros and the cons are a little bit like you're overly focused on the individual. There's not a huge amount of spirituality or connection to a bigger mind behind life, and that is very individualistic. I can do it. And again, I have to say, all these regions are absolutely natural, inevitable, and necessary. I'm not saying this region's better than that region. I'm just saying that this is kind of the nature of being human. Give us a head nod if this is making sense so far. Yeah. Okay. So now let's reveal the next one, honey.
Okay.
From personal power, there can be people getting in touch with this bigger mind, life, God, power behind life. And I call this the transcendent paradigm. This is like the personal power paradigm. This is like the transcendent paradigm. This, oh, I'm connected. So from this region, okay, people see that, yes, they are powerful and they can change their lives, but they start getting in touch with their gut intuition, realizing there's a bigger power or source behind life. Okay, so that's a transcendent paradigm. In this region, personal power, if you look at something like law of attraction, it's all about what do I want? I'm going to create what I want to create. In this region, because there's a connection, you start channeling, well, what wants to come through me? It's a bit of a deeper or a bigger way of creating. It's not what do I want, because you can create what you want and it may not actually help your life fulfillment in any way, shape or form. Hence why people who win the lottery aren't any happier than, in fact, they're slightly less happy than the person who hasn't won the lottery. Money is helpful and gives you more freedom, but it doesn't ultimately at a certain level make you any happier. So you can have all the stuff you want, but it's not going to do much for your life fulfillment until the transcendent paradigm where you start flowing, well, what genuinely, authentically wants to be created through me? So it's a different paradigm around law of attraction. Now, as I said, it's on a spectrum. Like, this region of the transcendent can be a little bit passive. All I need is this understanding and I'll be fine. I don't need to do anything. I just need to get this or that and life will be good. Okay. And then as you travel to this region, you start getting more active. Like you're actively meditating, you're actively altering your states of consciousness. So there is the passivity of this will only take you so far until you kind of clunk in with being more actively expanding your intuition, actively altering your states of consciousness, if that makes sense. And this is categorized by things like a deeper version of, I call it LOV, law of vibration. So you're not trying to attract, you are literally getting in touch with the universal power of vibration. But I mean, we've done other webinars on that. And you're into spiritual teachings and understandings. You might learn meditation and breath work and different stuff. So spiritual teachings here doesn't really work so well because people want to empower themselves. They're not interested in some kind of arty-farty spiritual esoteric thing. They just want to, okay, I'm going to get that job. Up here, because they feel connected, there's a bigger source behind life and they want to hear spiritual teachings to explain that. The pros of the transcendent is your heart opens to others, you're more community orientated, okay? The cons is that you're overly focused on positivity and there's this split. There's a true self and a false self and a getting and a not getting. There is a little bit, not all, but many of them, you kind of disregard the physical body because I'm going to be spiritual, that the body's not as important as spirituality. And the transcendent model is a little bit like, when I get to this state of consciousness, I'll be free. Or I need to just be joyful all the time, or I just need to, if I'm happy and life is good, I'm getting it and I'm doing well. So there's this little bit of this splitting, and I'll explain what I mean by that. The transcendent paradigm is a little bit bypassy. Well, I feel bad. Okay, let's ignore that because it's not my true self. Or I feel bad. Let's not listen to my body and let's go and get myself out of this state. So there's all this stuff going on in the transcendent model. What can happen, okay, in the transcendent paradigm is when not at the lower end where you're just, all I need is understanding, when you actively meditate, go within, you can't hide from yourself. You're going into yourself, okay? Then you get, it's really obvious if your job, your relationship, or where you live, or what you do is out of resonance with your heart. Now, you can kind of bypass it here and here because you're not really going within to sense and feel it. And you can bypass it if you're just passively listening to other teachers and you're not actively going within. When you actively go within in the higher tiers of the transcendent paradigm, you cannot run away from yourself anymore. And it will often lead to a life realignment. Change of jobs, a retraining, leaving a partner, or leaving a country, or doing something different because your spirit can't take the incongruency in your life. This could end marriages, it could, you know, sell houses. I mean, however it looks like, often at the higher tier of the transcendent model, things have to change. Has anyone ever experienced this? Give us a head nod if you've experienced this yourself. Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's almost everybody. That's so interesting. Now, that gritty life experience, which can be really difficult if it involves kids and divorce and bankruptcy and change of jobs, all the rest of it, what that does, it creates a space for the whole paradigm. And what does that mean? where the transcendent paradigm is a little bit bypassing, let's run away from anything that doesn't feel good because that's not my true self. You start integrating.
Yes.
So,
and this isn't
yeah, go
anything
ahead.
new. This isn't anything new. So this is, there's this term, do nothing, that is a inaccurate translation of Wu Wei. Wu Wei just simply means not to go against the force of nature, where you cannot tell the difference between the dancer and the dance, the artist and the art. In the central Mexico, the Nahuatl, language, there's something called Toltecatl. But really, again, Toltecatl means skilled craftsman. You cannot tell the difference between the crafter and the craft, with more emphasis on the craft, with more emphasis on the creation.
So from the whole paradigm, is not that I'm connected, you feel, sense an entanglement. You're not connected to life, you are life humaning. Here you feel connected to life. Here you are life. It's a different paradigm, okay? And from this region, you include the body. You're not bypassing those deep bodily sensations trying to tell you something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can commune and integrate with the body, with your whole nature. Okay. From this region, I mean, this sounds kind of a bit crazy, but from this region, you're not like doing creative visualizations and affirmations and motivational speaking. From this region, you become so entangled within all things that you're constantly getting intuitive downloads because of your entanglement. And that intuitive download inspires you and you create through inspiration all automatically. So from here, what do I want? From here, what does the universe want through me? Which is beautiful. From here, intuition is just pinging, 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 and you are acting and working through those inspirational, intuitive urges. You're not like, is this my intuition? This is not my intuition. You're just doing what comes through you automatically without even thinking about it, without analyzing it whatsoever. So the pros, for instance, of region 4 is an unconditional acceptance of all of you.
Right. And that means the gritty parts too. Sometimes your intuition is telling you to work through or honor, integrate, turn towards, face what discomforts may be arising in your physicality.
So there's not a true self and a false self. There's a whole self, wholly integrated. Whereas region 3, the transcendent paradigm, is kind of a little bit like, well, when I'm in this state of bliss and freedom, I'm good and I'm free when I'm feeling joyful. Well, no, in the Wholality paradigm, you realize that we are the universe humaning and we ebb and flow and we go up and down. It's all okay. Even the dark, gritty, spiky bits of us, which could be called the ego, all of it's accepted. So you can start embodying an unconditional acceptance within the whole of the human experience rather than trying to ascend or transcend the human experience here. Okay. Now, so that's the pros: unconditional acceptance of all you are, an embodied understanding of life, physical and non-physical dissolve, and you just see it all as spiritual, physically. Okay. Now, the cons is people will often not understand you. Okay. It's hard to communicate in this region with others. For instance, if this 80% of the world's population, okay, so now we've only got 20% of the world's population left. If this is 20% of the world's population less, 90% of them are here. Okay. Now you've got maybe 8% of the 20% there, and now you've only got 2%. So literally probably only 1 in a few hundred people would be there. So from that region, it's like you're talking Chinese to someone from a different region. Okay. And if you're trying to teach this, you have to come up with lots of metaphors and ways to try and help people. Just contemplate right now, where do you think you are in these regions? Again, it's a spectrum. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to tell anybody. You don't need to put it in the chat. Just contemplate. Where do you think I am in this region? To give you an example from this region, I've put the art of energetics, where you're not creative visualizing, you're not doing creative visualizations. You are literally molding space-time energetically. It's very different from this region where you're doing creative visualizations. Okay. From this region, you're excelling, you're becoming more powerful, you're doing stuff in the world. But from this region, you're so entangled, stuff is happening in the world. You're just channeling. So each region is literally a different paradigm of being. So just contemplate, where are you in this region? Second contemplation, if you're a coach or a facilitator or a therapist and you have clients, where do you think of maybe one or two of your clients, where do you think they are in these regions? Loving this, so powerful. Can I get a copy of your visual on the poster, please?
Yes.
Sure. Oh, great question. Do we fluctuate or do we stay in the same region?
Oh, that's the question.
Great question. So again, these are the main regions. It's all on a spectrum. And what you can find, you can actually, in fact, who here has had an experience or an insight where they felt they kind of like flew up and were just like in the clouds of bliss and then kind of like fell down again? Have you? Yeah. Okay. So what can happen, because we're nature humaning and nature ebbs and flows, we can ebb and flow like water. We can have a beautiful insight, but for instance, on the embodiment training, part of why we call it embodiment is with step-by-step guidance, knowing where people are, giving them tools, which I'm going to move on to next, specific to that region. You can kind of like anchor yourself and you don't go up and down so much.
As much. Well, yeah. We call those whole sites. It's an embodied insight. But what we do understand is, so as Rudy said, like from this region, if we wake up naturally, necessary, inevitably have a contractive day, a gritty day, an ebbing day. From here, it's taken as a step back. And that in itself, there's judgment that begins, and then our natural, necessary, inevitable contractions get lower and more contracted because we judge ourselves. Oh, I'm not getting this. I want my true self. There's that splitting. However, from here, the wholeness, which isn't anything new, it's been around for the millennia, there's an honoring that we will have days that are naturally, necessarily, inevitably contracting. That is nature. That's spring, summer, winter, fall. Those are the little inchworm contracting and expanding. That is all part of it. So we hold space for it. So we naturally, necessarily, inevitably ebb and flow, but we hold space for the ebbs. So we don't ebb as much. And this is where we, with our students, we offer, we bring out the Toltecato in us, we bring out the kahuna in us, just as ancient cultures have been doing for the millennia. We hold space for them and give them whatever tools are ignited from within them in their own unique way. Because there's no one paint my numbers, there's no one template for each person, because we're these beautiful, exquisite, unique creatures.
Exactly. One course fits all doesn't work. It may help 20% of the people. It may kind of slightly help another 20%, but you're going to get half the people who there's very little movement. What does help? Okay. On the embodiment experience, we didn't used to, but now we identify where are people. We give them a questionnaire. We identify what region of consciousness are they in, and we uniquely and individually help people shift, evolve to where they are. And everyone is different. The reason we do it over 4 months is because, as you guys know, habits and patterns can take a while to get into your implicit memory. It can take a while before you start doing it automatically. So going on a big weekend is great. You get this buzz, but then it can wear off. So having a day by day resource video, having personal help from real people, having live interactions and practicing and connecting with other real live people embodies, so you can ebb and flow, but you never really go back to where you were because it's embodied, hence the name.
It's embodied, and you can't unsee it. So you know that you're naturally, necessarily, inevitably gonna contract, but it's just like navigating a rainstorm.
Yeah. And also one other thing is, for people who can physically make it to Hawaii, we literally take them to higher frequency places. They get to sense it, to feel it, to experience it. We take them into nature. So theories and spirituality is great, but it has to be in your body. It has to be embodied. It has to be experienced. It's a bit like, I have a theoretical understanding of childbirth. Jules it's an embodied understanding because she's given birth. So when you take spirituality into the embodiment phase, it just sticks with you rather than wearing off. And so the embodiment experience, we're literally uniquely helping people shift to different regions, to different regions, different regions over 4 months. And it becomes so embodied in them that it doesn't kind of wear off in the traditional sense. So how do you help people from the regions? Personally, you need to understand where your region is. And if you're helping other people, you need to understand where their region is, okay? And you would offer different resources depending, I'm just going to talk as a coach for now. You would offer different resources to the people when you know what region they're in. For example, if a person is in this state of self-loathing, okay, maybe they can't get out of bed, they're anxious, they've got trauma. Going on a law of attraction course here where you can have everything you want, you just need to manifest it, isn't going to help them. They just want to feel better. Even like a transcendent region meditation isn't going to help them. So someone in this region going on all these different courses probably going to get more self-critical of themselves because, well, I can't manifest and I can't meditate, and they get worse and worse. So having someone in a certain region do a different region's course or coaching is really not helpful for them at all. It can make them worse. So from the region of self-loathing and I'm crap and I'm not good enough and, you know, pains in the body and trauma, you need to work in the region of open-eyed breath work, feeling safe, calming the nervous system down, being loved, supported, and held, okay? Whereas someone in region 4 isn't going to need that. So region 4 going on that course is going to like, well, this is cool, but... So you have to match the resources to the region. Another example, person region 1, if you In a lower region one, if you said, oh, the law of attraction, you know, you can manifest anything in life because we're all connected, they'll just like laugh in your face. Well, no, I live in a practical real world here. Of course, your energy doesn't mix with the energy in create. It's just like laughable. So that's not going to help them. Whereas in someone in region 4, if you try and get them to do a creative visualization and manifest what they want, it doesn't resonate with them because they're just channeling the universe through them anyway, automatically. A person in region 2, if you said to them, just trust your intuition and let it guide you to inspire and create through you. In this region, they haven't got to the level of going within. They can't alter their states of consciousness. They can't get a deep present. They don't feel that connected. So that's not going to do anything for them. Can you see?
Yeah.
So you have to match the resources to the region people are in. Is this making sense? Give us a head nod if this is making sense so far.
So
Okay.
protectively, as a human, we have these amazing physical, you know, I say we're biochemical, electromagnetic, plasma-like beings. We're spiritual, biochemical, electromagnetic, blah, blah, blah. But the biochemical part of us is there to keep us safe. If this didn't react first, we would not survive as a human species. So in Wholality, we honor that. And what we honor is if somebody is missing that connection to more expanded space, a connection to their deeper essence, that intuitive essence. I work with blocks in the physical body. Blocks in the physical body, I would say, because I can't be an extremist, but I can safely say that 99.99999% of the people on this earth are walking around with blocks unknowingly, and turning towards that and honoring that. There is going to be subtle shifts. There's going to be a deeper sense of existence. There's going to be a more expanded sense of connection. Then it turns into entanglement. So there's going to be a more expanded sense of oneness.
Okay, so what do you do with people in certain regions? This is what I'm going to talk about briefly now. So mainstreamy people, especially if their friends, family love them and don't try and get them to be like you, or don't try and get them to evolve. Just love them as they are. So many problems happen in relationships where one person takes a jump and then they try and pull their partner up. It just doesn't go so well. However, when or if people get curious about that they can change reality, as far as what you can help them with, as far as tools, understandings, techniques, modalities, whatever word you want to use, affirmations, motivational talk, creative visualizations, you know, the law of attraction, all of these kind of help kind of lift people from life happens to me to I can create my life. Okay. So that kind of lifts people up into the personal power. Now, from the personal power, to lift people from personal power into the transcendental, spiritual teachings, meditation, altered states of consciousness, people can actively go within and start not just having that we're connected as a nice idea or belief system, but feeling God within themselves. Feeling, sensing, becoming heartfelt compassion, like as a heat in the body, as a sense of all things. Altered states of consciousness will do that. Okay. And so to step up from transcendent into like the wholeness paradigm is like it's the end of splitting true self, false self, physical, non-physical, real, illusion. It's the distraction of trying to reach a certain state. It's a distraction of bypassing these deeper sensations. It's the destruction of judging yourself as to what's happening in your life, because often to evolve, you have to go through some crap and grit. It could be bankruptcy, it could be a health condition, it could be a divorce, whatever it is. You stop judging that process and you know it is making space for you to be wholly yourself. And from this region, you literally bend space time. I'm going to say this, and I'm sorry if you don't want people to say this. So the other night, Jules astral projected to Palestine and Israel and was helping people non-physically. So this is a very powerful energetic space. You become a visionary, you become a leader, you start molding reality from a non-physical energy.
What? Okay. So what, it was just people experiencing fear and pain. It wasn't this side or that side. It wasn't, it was just people experiencing fear and pain. I had to go into that darkness so that I could birth light, so they could birth light from within them.
Yeah.
And there was only one individual that could see me that I could talk to. This is crazy, Rudy. So.
Well, I want to be honest, because I always shy away from this stuff, but I just want to, this is our potential as humans. Like we're not just physical, we have this incredible energetic power that only really starts to get embodied at this region here, okay? Because you've had to go through that evolution to get there in the first place. That's why, for instance, people who all of a sudden get loads of money, they often lose it. Why? Because they haven't gone through the steps of becoming the person they need to be wealthy. They've just missed these steps, so it falls apart. You have to become the person. Yeah. And all of this is like a becoming. So
yeah, because this physical, that it's the physical body that's forever and always transmuting the non-physical energy of life. So when stuff arises over and over and over and over again, you could say it's like cognition or thoughts that arise over and over and over again, waiting for a brand new fresh thought. The thoughts arise from the physical body. They arise in an upward motion. And that is how we are helping people phenomenally, like, take charge of their life, knowing that. And I would love Elise to talk a little bit about that. Is that okay if I put you on the spot?
I've had eating disorders since I was a child, anorexia, bulimia, binge eating. Life was just about survival. It was hard. It was really, really hard. It was painful. I didn't want to be here. Stopped being able to cry, didn't laugh. So then on the other side, having studied the program, truly, hand on my heart, I can say this without a shadow of a doubt. I totally love me. And I didn't before. Every day just feels amazing because I don't have that voice that is telling me, you're this, you're that. I feel loved, I feel accepted. I feel I matter, I feel I belong. I feel I'm more than good enough. And my God, am I worthy? Just because. But within, I have shifted so much. My whole life, my childhood, my past, everything feels, it's experienced differently now. And I have so much love and compassion for who I am and what I've been through. And I lived with so much guilt and shame. And all of the guilt and shame fell away. And it's just, oh my God, my body was protecting me.
Right.
And within seconds, and it was literally the other night when I spoke to Jules, we had a one-to-one, all of the judgment, everything fell away. And it wasn't self-belief, it wasn't self-love, it wasn't confidence. But suddenly all these things that I've tried to force myself to do and white knuckle, in that moment it was, I can do this. And it wasn't arrogant. It's like, I can do it. There's no effort, there's no nothing. So my entire childhood, my entire past, within seconds, shifted. And as a result, my future is completely, what is showing up, the visions that are showing up are so different. But had I have come to this a few years back, I either wouldn't be able to sustain the shift or it wouldn't have happened on that level because I was not there. You can't go from this level to there. So there was that natural progression. And then from there, it just exploded. It was when I left that alone and I became curious about what's happening in the body. Right. And it's, the number of courses I've been on, and someone will have a massive shift and others won't. And there's no one that you can necessarily blame. It's this or it's that. It's like, well, what is it? And I've had that shift with Wholality. I've had it with the trauma training. When you're guided, when you're moved, on some level, regardless of what region you're in, you know the next step, whether you realize it or not. And when you take it, and for me, it was Wholality and it was the trauma training. That, and when you have the courage to stay with it, everything just opens up. But it's what you're speaking about. It's that grit, the bankruptcy, the divorce, all of that stuff. Don't run. Don't try and put a Band-Aid on it. Go deep. Go within. Be with what's showing up. And what you get is just, I mean, I'm just basking in what I've experienced the other night. And it was just, oh my God, I'm not beating me up. I don't need to be ashamed. And for me, having, been the client, receiving that gift, it's mind-blowing. But you're right, you cannot take someone from here to there. It's doing the steps. And that's what I did. I did the steps.
Yeah, it's work.
So I hope that kind of answers.
Well, you showed up and you honored your whole self.
Yeah.
You honored your whole self. You recognized what was going on and you turned towards it. And it's so whole.
I put a link in the chat there. Elise and some of these other guys did the embodiment training, which then led to the facilitator training. I wanted to stop talking there and see briefly if you guys have got questions or comments or want to say anything. Open the chat and we would love to hear from you. Angela, yeah, go ahead.
I always find that in these spaces, I connect another part of myself. So thank you for that. First time I've ever looked at a pyramid, and I'm going to say something very weird. First of all, I'm nowhere near the summit, the peak. But the first time I thought how I would love the whole thing to be the other way, upside down. Instead of thinking of transcendence as something we're aiming to high and go up a ladder, to me, if it was the other way around, it's almost like going back into earth, going back into me, into melting, and just going into Mother Earth rather than airy-fairy, wherever. I don't know. It's never ever occurred to me. I've seen so many pyramids, but this is the first time I just said, oh, how I wish it was the other way around.
Like,
So
yeah.
I'm good about that.
Well, that's beautiful because really that's what Rudy was saying. It's understanding that you're not part of nature. You are nature humaning. So really, it is exactly what he's saying. It's not anything new. It's what the kahunas, the curanderas, my grandmothers, it's just, we are one with nature. And these are transcendent, meaning I'm elevated or
Yeah.
I'm greater than.
Yeah, because we're not actually talking about transcending. Okay.
We're talking about the size.
And I like what you've said,
Yeah.
because actually, in a sense, it's going deep within yourself.
Yes.
So you could reverse the pyramid. And I had thought about doing this like that, but I realized I wanted the pyramid to represent the amount of people in the world, how there's a lot more people down here compared to up there. But fundamentally, yeah, you're right. It's about renaturalizing, about deepening and going within.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah, so it's really beautiful.
Yeah, love that.
One of my mentors that I've had for 25 years, his experience was like he was in like for like 7 years. He had all these incredible, maybe 3 or 4, whatever, 3 or 4 hours of meditation, astral projection, all kinds of stuff that was happening for him. But then he said he felt one day like something get put on his head, on his top chakra, and all that shut down. He had no access to any of it, and he was in like the depths of the body and integrating the pain from the past, like for 7 full years. So he kind of talks about how he kind of his experience was sort of opposite of mainstream, but he was kind of pointing to like there's no one way. Like it's almost like the universe or God kind of takes us what will help us, and then we
Absolutely.
eventually have to integrate into all of it. And I've kind of the experiences of jumping around, even though I could be in 3 or 4, and I'm back in 1. Sometimes when something really difficult happens, that I have to go back and integrate something that
Yeah.
I hadn't before.
That's beautiful, Elisa, sorry. That's why we say embodied insight, because after my near death, you know, I had this insight, this seeing, this understanding, but I still had to do all the work. I still had to go within myself. You know, that insight just didn't snap me out of everything that my physical body was carrying. It took me a long time, and I did it. But I can really relate with that story you said. But again, there isn't one way. We are so beautiful and unique, and honoring that wherever we are. I like that story, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you for letting me share that.
Because to be clear, you can be in states of bliss, you can be astral projecting, you know, energy stuff, great. And you could still be there. In the wholeness paradigm, it's a renaturalization. It's embracing all of your humanness. It's going within the body. It's not being spiritual.
Right.
It's actually being human.
Right.
There's this depth of compassion and humanity and humbleness here that can be a bit spiritualized out of in this region, because you're kind of bypassing. I know certain, I'm going to be really vague. I know certain teachers and certain understandings, and they just keep trying to be the guru and trying to be in this state and giving the appearance of being humble when they're really not that humble. Like there's this authenticity here. Like you don't care what people think of you. You stop trying to be the teacher. You're human. You cry, you go within and you feel the pain. It looks like a lower region, but it's the humanity that shines through in full. It's not transcending, it's embracing.
It's gritty. Yeah.
Yeah, and this
Oh.
oh sorry. Oh,
Go
this
ahead.
one more quick. This mentor I'm talking about, I've known him for about 25 years. I met him in massage school when I was in my 20s, and he was an energy worker. And I've seen like a lot of his transitions over the years. And it's interesting because now he's like, when I met him back then, he was like blissed out. Like he was like, it was like you were in a room with him, you were in bliss. It was just amazing. But now knowing him, like he's so much more grounded and integrated. It's kind of like all is accessible, all of that, but he kind of describes it as like when you're like so much more integrated in the body, and you've healed a lot of that core gut level, like, you know, stuff from childhood and, you know, all that. He says it's kind of like it feels like in that higher region, you're not blissed out in the same way because it's so integrated into.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that so much, because after, like, I can resonate, because after, sorry, Rudy, after my experience, I was not helpful. It was not helpful to be blissed out. It wasn't productive in life. You know, everything kind of excites you. And you have these tearful, joyful tears coming through, and you're not in the body. And then what it sounds like what he said is that it was time. It was time for him to turn towards his whole being and honor that and integrate it. And it's a deeper, more expansive space. And he can probably hold space for other people, well, himself, and then other people just that much more. What a gift.
Yeah.
Lisa.
Yeah, some people call it the dark night of the soul, or have different words for this period of time where you're kind of cleaning out house, integrating all that. And, another thing he said that was interesting is that he said sometimes people that look like they're really advanced, so to speak. They're super high, they're super blissed out. If you don't really haven't been through a lot of these states and had a lot of this, it can seem like to the person that's sort of naive, like that they're like really high up.
Yes.
And other people that are like can look up super messed up, he would say, are way less messed. They're way less messed up because they're so much more aware and conscious of their stuff. And so it's kind of it doesn't, how it looks isn't always an indication of how it really is.
Yeah, exactly. So the traditional thing is, oh, when I progress and evolve, I'm going to be this being of light. But actually, from this region, you wouldn't be able to tell.
No.
Because they're so human, they're so humble.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, the whole transcendence thing, all of a sudden you get to a certain region and it's dead. There's no more transcending, no more trying to be a certain person or attain a certain thing, and you become wholly, humbly, inevitably human. And the whole golden jeweled chalice of what you think spirituality is becomes like this kind of like clunky wooden cup. And actually that's where it is.
Yeah. I love that story, Elisa. Mahalo, Elisa.
All of this stuff I'm sharing with you, it's been so interesting. It's been being downloaded. And for the first time in my 25, 30 years of being able to help other people help themselves, I was missing this missing link. Where are people's regions of consciousness? Match their region with what will actually help them uniquely. This is why we've had such incredible results. The transformations of people and how they've jumped these regions by working individually with them over 4 months on the embodiment experience. So for more info on the embodiment experience, please click the link below this video and you'll be taken to a new interactive video where you can ask questions, choose what you want to know about, get money off coupons, or even schedule a time to talk to us, all from one video. Very cool. Okay guys, lots of love and we will see you very soon.
Bye guys.
Bye bye.
See you soon.